Well, this is a fairly staggering development in Bangladesh, and it comes at a time in the country we've seen is in a state of fair turmoil. Khaleda Zia has been a pioneer in Bangladesh, the first woman prime minister. She made history, in fact, in 1991 when she became Bangladesh's first woman prime minister at that stage. She didn't intend to be a politician to begin with, but she ended up leading what became a truly democratic and fairly progressive Bangladesh, I believe, for a period of 3 terms. She was seen to be an uncompromising democratic icon. She led a 7-party alliance against Hussein Mohammad Ershad, who was a military dictator who was in power in Bangladesh through the 80s. There were lots of allegations of corruption against Ershad. This was certainly a plank that the BNP and she used personally. She's seen to be, therefore, an architect of parliamentary democracy. She transformed Bangladesh from a presidential system of democracy or governance, which is what she inherited from Hussein Mohammad Ershad, to one which was much more representative of the people in the country. She was known as somebody who worked very closely on educational reform in the country. Primary education was made free, and the implementation of free primary education was a big priority for her. Improving the status of girls and women was something that she looked at or worked at very, very closely. There were allegations of corruption as well against her. In fact, her rise, and shortly thereafter, there was, of course, Sheikh Hasina, who became the dominant political force in Bangladeshi politics in 2008, I believe. She was, charged with corruption in the Zia Orphanage Trust case. We'll pull up details of that in just a little while. But she was able to be acquitted. She was finally acquitted in 2025. So a very long period when, she was under house arrest and imprisonment as well earlier on. But then her health started failing her, and she's been quite critical. She was critical in her health condition over the last couple of months. And the sad news is that at 6 a.m. This morning, which in Bangladesh time, that corresponds to 5:30 a.m. here in India, she's died. She's passed away in hospital.
Vishnu, the BNP, meanwhile, today faces internal challenges and external pressures. Does this loss mean that their organizational strength of the party moving forward will be hampered?
Well, her son has come to Bangladesh for the first time in more than 17 years, in fact. He's had a chance of seeing his mother, whose condition had worsened. It really needs to be seen whether Tarique Rehman fills the shoes of Khaleda Zia at a time when Bangladesh goes into elections in a couple of months from now. Those will be one of the most momentous, most significant elections that Bangladesh has had, I would suggest, since the early 90s, when, in fact, Khaleda Zia made history in becoming the first woman prime minister of Bangladesh. Therefore, there are all sorts of, accounts, or there's a sense of deep concern on what may happen in Bangladesh. Will we, for example, see a very strong Islamist leadership in Bangladesh emerge? What about the role of students? What about the role of the BNP? Is Tarique Rehman the leader who can actually make a difference and provide stability in the country? Muhammad Yunus, the interim leader, has said quite clearly that he does expect elections to be held on schedule. He's pushed for those elections to take place. That'll happen in the month of February. So we'll really need to wait and see whether he can emerge as a stabilizing force. If you do ask Sheikh Hasina's party and leaders such from her Awami League, they continue to insist that they are a factor in Bangladeshi politics even now. But we're going to have to wait and see. In the interim period, there has been a great deal of turmoil. There has been communal strife, which is reported as well. There has been a diplomatic relationship with New Delhi, which is completely and entirely plummeted. Therefore, a marked sense of anti-India sentiment on the ground in Bangladesh. This is particularly disappointing given the fact that, culturally, historically, and for so many other reasons, economically, we remain very close partners. Therefore, what Bangladesh needs at this stage is stability. But in the midst of all of this, the news of Khaleda Zia passing away is certainly something which gives us a moment to sit back and really ponder about the future of one of our most important neighbors.
Speaking of New Delhi and speaking of history, Vishnu, from a strategic lens, how significant was Khaleda Zia in shaping Bangladesh's foreign policy posture over the decades, particularly vis-a-vis India?
Well, her foreign policy vis-a-vis India was not the one that New Delhi, was ideally, very fond of or close to. I mean, over a period of time, Sheikh Hasina became the leader that New Delhi identified best with. The fact that Sheikh Hasina was extremely pro-India was something that suited New Delhi. We had a very stable relationship with Sheikh Hasina. And politically, Khaleda Zia represented a challenge to Sheikh Hasina on the ground in Bangladesh. That said, there were strong diplomatic relations throughout the 90s with Bangladesh. And of course, there were nuances and differences in views and things like that. But the situation then was of a stable country and two stable nations engaging one another. But in terms of Khaleda Zia herself, the fact that, some of her views were contrarian to what New Delhi believed in certainly defined that relationship between India and Bangladesh. But just moving beyond, the India-Bangladesh sort of story to Sheikh Hasina herself, to Khaleda Zia herself, she was always seen to be, an uncompromising democratic icon. And I think that legacy of hers is something that needs to be looked at very closely. She won the label of Deshnetri, in other words, a leader of the nation, leader of Bangladesh. Again, 1991 is when she came to power, a 7-party alliance. Despite, all odds, some would suggest, she actually came to power defeating the incumbent Hossein Mohammad Ershad, who was an army general. And I suppose, in a sense, the fall of the army as the dominant political force in Bangladeshi politics, which had been the case for more than a decade prior, was something that she ensured. Obviously, there was also a time when one saw Sheikh Hasina becoming, and the Awami League, her arch rival, becoming a very formidable political force. And finally, it was Sheikh Hasina who became the dominant political figure in Bangladesh, being prime minister for several terms until she was actually removed virtually forcibly last year itself.